Ed in camp. We were driving up into the mountains. It was to be my last fishing trip with the old man. He was 90, perhaps more, probably more. It was hard to tell because the old man lied about his age. He lied about almost everything. Following his conversation was like tracking a ferret through dry leaves. His name was Ed.
"I'm glad you invited me along on this fishing trip," he said. You're a good boy."
"I didn't invite you," I said. "You invited me. This fishing trip was your idea."
"It was?" he said. "Well, I didn't know."
"Yes, Ed, it was your idea," I said. "You said that you were going to drive up into the mountains and fish Caribou Creek one last time. As you'll recall, I told you that you couldn't drive because you don't have a driver's license anymore. You don't have a driver's license because you can't see more than 20 feet ahead of you. Besides, your car won't run."
"How come my car won't run?"
"Because I fixed it so it wouldn't. You may recall that you nearly ran over Mike Murphy's dog on your last outing."
"Murphy's dog should have gotten out of my way. If a dog's too stupid to get out of the way, he should be run over."
"He was tied up to Murphy's front porch, Ed. He couldn't get out of the way."
"So that's what all the fuss was about?"
"Yeah. There was also some problem with a rose bush and a pink plastic flamingo."
"I hate those plastic flamingos. I must have meant to run over it."
"Anyway, I told you that if you insisted on going up to Caribou Creek one more time, I'd take you."
"So you did invite me. You always try to put the blame on me for your own foolishness. I'd think you'd have better sense than to drag an old man like me out on a long trip like this. I'm already tired. A trip like this could kill me. I tell you one thing, though. One time, Pinto Jack and me..."
I waited. "What, Ed? What about you and Pinto Jack?" No reply. Ed had gone to sleep, head back against the seat, mouth open, and emitting frail little snores. Everything about Ed was frail, even his snores. I began to wonder if this fishing trip wasn't a bad mistake. I'd known from the beginning it was a mistake, but not that it was a bad mistake. Ed had already caught thousands of fish in his lifetime, many of them legal. What purpose was served by his catching a few more? It wasn't as though he'd been deprived of his share of fun. He had devoted his entire life to having a good time. I doubt that a single day had ever slipped by without Ed grabbing it in a bear hug and squeezing out a maximum measure of enjoyment. Almost all his life he'd been happy. I guess that's why I hung out with him as much as I did. Maybe I wanted to find out Ed's secret.
"Ain't you even interested?"
Ed said suddenly. "In what?"
"Well, God dang it, ain't you heard a word I said? I was telling you about what me and Pinto Jack did one time, but I can see you ain't interested, so I guess I won't."
"Fine."
"So, Pinto and me, we fixed up this old school bus as a kind of a camper. Had one of them emergency doors in the back that the kids can escape out of if they're smart enough and want to skip school. We built a couple bunks in the bus, and he even had a trapper stove in there with the chimney elbowed out one of the windows. It was a real nice outfit. One week, we was camped up in McCormick Meadows, that high country up in the headwaters of McCormick Creek, you know. Well, about noon one day, I fixed myself a nice bologna and onion sandwich and left it on the table while I went down to the creek to get some water.
"And what, Ed?" I glanced over. He was sound asleep again. That was all right with me. The road was getting steep and treacherous now. The more treacherous the road, the better the fishing. That's my theory. I punched the truck into four-wheel drive, and we started to climb. Before long, we came to the bad spot. A big, steep slab of rock that slants out over the canyon. Even 4x4s have a tendency to slide ever so slightly toward the brink, just enough to give you that feeling in your stomach that tells you the fishing up ahead is gonna be darn good. The tricky part is that the front of the vehicle rears way up at the high edge of the rock, and you kind of teeter over the top lip of the slab, and the hood is in your way, and you can't see if you're going to land on the road or not. And this is very spooky, because if you don't land on the road, you're not going to land on anything for about a half-mile, and all you can do then is watch the scenery flash vertically past the windows. I've had grown men scream going over the top of the slab, and sometimes I've joined in myself just to keep them company. And when we hit the road on the other side, we just turn the screams into a song. Yeah! The old gray mare, she ain't what she used to be, ain't what she used to be. Kinda like that. You don't want any distractions as you totter over the top edge of that slab.
And so I start fooling around down there by the creek, catching some hell grummets for bait. Dang it, stop singing about the old gray mare when I'm trying to tell you a story. Oh, we must have just topped the slab. I didn't catch the scream part. Did we miss the road, or has it just got real smooth?
No, we hit the road. I stopped the car to let my heart start up again. Go on with your story.
Where was I? Hard to tell a story with you interrupting every few minutes. Oh, yeah. So I get back to the bus, and my sandwich is gone. I figure Pinto snuck in and ate it. When Pinto shows up, he claims he don't know nothing about any sandwich. We get to looking around, and finally we see the damp print of a bear's paw on the linoleum. Did I tell you about the linoleum? Oh, me and Pinto got it for practically nothing down at the furniture store, and...
Forget the linoleum. Tell me about the bear.
What bear? Oh, yeah, the bear. Well, we figure the bear will come back to the bus the next day to see if we fixed him another sandwich for his lunch. So we tie a long rope to the emergency door and hide in the brush. Sure enough, long about noon, here comes the little bear, a yearling, and he hops right up into the bus. Pinto and I jerk the rope and slam the door shut.
At this point, Ed burst into a long, wheezing cackle.
So we got ourselves a bear trapped right there in our bus.
Ed smiled radiantly at the distant memory of the bear trapped in the bus, a smile directed inward rather than outward. "I've got a question for you, Ed," I said. "Just why did you trap that bear in the bus?"
Why? Because it was fun, that's why. And because I reckon nobody else in the entire history of the world ever trapped a bear in a bus. What do you think of that?
Well, I think you're probably right. What did you do with the bear now that you had him trapped in your bus?
Well, we was young bucks, so we didn't waste our time thinking ahead. If an idea come to us to do something, we did it, and left the thinking for after. The problem was, when we opened the door, the bear wouldn't leave. He just sat in there, eating up our grub like he was at his own birthday party. I guess he figured it was his bus now, and he didn't seem to mind us standing on the outside looking in. He seemed to think that was the way it should be. I says to Pinto, "Pinto, We better get him out of there before he figures out how to drive the dang bus. And then we'll be left stranded up here in the mountains with nothing to eat. Pinto says he's getting madder and madder just watching that bear eat up all our grub. And what was the bear doing in our bus anyway? And he says he's going in the bus and throwing the hairy bugger out. And he done just that. You remember, don't you, how Pinto was never quite all there? Well, by the time he got that bear out of the bus, there was a whole lot less of him there. But he done it, and that's what counts. We had a lot of good laughs over that bear, Pinto and me. Which reminds me of the time...
I was staring out the windshield, thinking of Pinto and the bear, and wondering whether there had been a bear or even a bus, when I heard the old man's wheezing snore. Easing up on the brake, I let the truck crawl ahead until the road widened out enough for a snake to pass us on the outside edge, if he took it easy and kept himself pretty straight. Ed didn't wake up again until after we had pulled into the campsite at Caribou Creek. I tossed the tent bundle out on the ground and started to unwrap it. Ed opened the door of the truck and looked out.
Hey, stop that! You don't know nothing about how to pitch a tent proper. You let me give you a hand with it so it gets done right.
I spread out the ground cloth, rolled the tent out on it, and staked down the corners.
I'm almost out of the truck, Ed said. You're staking them corners down too loose. You wait till I get over there and show you how.
I fitted the frame together, snapped the tent to it, and tied off the roof flaps. Then I got the 2 cots out of the truck and set them up in the tent along with the camp table and chairs. I was sitting at the table, pouring a cup of coffee, when Ed arrived.
You should have waited for me to help, he snapped. As usual, you done it all wrong.
He sagged into a chair.
Now I'm all pooped out from rushing over here so fast. And I left my cigars in the truck. I better go get 'em.
Try to be back before dark, I said. I don't want to have to come looking for you.
On second thought, you go get my cigars.
I'll get your cigars after I finish my coffee, I said. You know they're bad for your health, don't you?
What health? I haven't had any health in years. Now go get them cigars and I'll finish that cup of coffee for you. It's the least I can do.
That night I built a big campfire, and the old man and I sat in our chairs, poking at the fire with sticks, drank a little whiskey, smoked his cigars, and told stories. Ed's stories were better than mine, but only because he was such a good liar. He also had a lot more fun. It made me a little sad, listening to all his great adventures and thinking about all the time I'd frittered away on work. Ed leaned back in his chair and squinted up at the sky.
My, he said, look at them stars. You can't see stars in the city. You have to be up in the mountains to really see stars. You know, there are trillions and trillions of stars. Every person on Earth could have 1 billion stars of his own, and there would be plenty left over.
I expect that's right, I said. I've never thought of it that way.
Well, they're really beautiful tonight, aren't they, the stars?
He said, gazing up into the darkness. They truly are, I said. I don't think I've ever seen the stars more beautiful. Actually, I couldn't see any stars at all because the sky was clouded over. It felt good to lie to the old man. I was glad to see I wasn't out of practice. After a bit, Ed said,
You know, out here in the mountains like this, sitting around a campfire next to a fine trout stream under a sky full of stars, this would be a perfect time and place for me to die.
I don't think so, I said. It's an inconvenient time and place.
Well, how come? You could bury me right over there, under those birches, and no one would know.
Bury you? I wouldn't bury you. Too much work. I came here to fish, not bury some ornery old cuss. You die, your remains stay right where they drop. The only trouble I'd go to is lifting that gold pocket watch of yours.
Robbing the dead. That's just what I'd expect of you, the old man growled. You're not a safe person to die around.
I didn't much care for the morbid thought Ed was turning over in his mind, and I particularly didn't like his little musing smile. A shiver ran through me, even though the night was warm. But what does a man in his 90s have to look forward to? Right. We sat there in silence for a long while, poking at the fire. After a while, I said, Oprah has a good show coming on next week.
Oprah does? What?
Pretty women who, let's see, what was that now? Oh, yeah, pretty women who have been captured by UFOs and marry creatures from outer space and later divorce, but then have a hard time collecting alimony.
Oh, sounds interesting, Ed said, perking up. I like that Oprah. She's a pretty woman. I do love them pretty women. When's Oprah have that show on?
Toward the end of the week. We'll be back in plenty of time.
Good! I wouldn't want to miss it.
I wouldn't want you to, I said.